Shanghai authorities have threatened to punish people who breach the city's COVID-19 lockdown rules. Police in the financial hub have warned residents not to spread false information or to forge road passes in order to go out for their daily supplies. Now, nearly 26 million people are under lockdown. Shanghai police have banned cars from the roads, and only those involved in epidemic prevention work or transporting people in need of emergency medical treatment are allowed to be out and about. Residents have been battling to secure food delivery slots. Reports say many are being forced to pay exorbitant prices for necessities. Officials say that they've issued 38,000 warnings to supermarkets and shops about price gouging. Shanghai reported more than 25,000 new asymptomatic cases today and nearly 1,200 symptomatic infections. Both mark a jump from yesterday. Another round of mass testing has been ordered in high-risk lockdown zones, and at the same time, health officials have warned that the situation in Shanghai is not under control, even as some restrictions are being eased.
疫情处于快速上升期，社区传播尚没有得到有效遏制，且外溢多省多市。预计未来几天，新增感染者人数仍将处于高位。近期国内疫情防控形势依然严峻复杂。
Hundreds of thousands of asymptomatic cases have been sent to quarantine facilities. Officials say China will not let patients with mild symptoms isolate at home due to the risk of spreading disease or developing severe illness. But such isolation facilities have run out of beds, with many stranded for hours on buses on the way to quarantine.
Shanghai is one of dozens of urban areas in China currently under full or partial lockdown, as you heard. Now, it's been a frustrating few weeks in the country's most populous city for locals and expatriates, some of whom are heading for the exits, temporarily or for good. CNA's Lo Min tells us more.
Scenes like this have become commonplace at Shanghai's Pudong airport after the city entered a hard lockdown, with people wanting to leave, but flights cancelled. Some even had to spend several nights here.
Right now, with the lockdown getting more and more serious, more and more strict in Shanghai, it would make sense to be away from Shanghai for a while until it all settles.
For this Shanghai resident of 14 years, packing up to go amidst the lockdown was no easy task.
It was quite difficult to find a driver that could drive because they needed quite a few permits to be able to drive on the roads. Another challenge is that you can actually only take the ride if you have 48 hours PCR valid. And how can we do that, right? Because it's chicken and egg.
Phyllis is headed to Singapore, where she'll stay until China's strict COVID curbs are lifted. For others, like this British expat, the lockdown has become the last straw. On day 9 of his lockdown, he decided to buy a one-way ticket out of Shanghai.
During the lockdown, saw a lot of access to compounds and people who were suffering, and more importantly, some of the conditions in some of these centralized quarantine facilities, which were pretty alarming. And so with that, it became very apparent to me that it was probably time to just leave at this point.
With an increasing number of expatriates and even locals thinking of leaving, at least temporarily, some self-help groups have formed on social media to share information on how to leave the city during the lockdown. And the European Union Chamber of Commerce has warned that China's COVID-19 strategy is eroding foreign investors' confidence.
People cannot go back and forth, cannot go back to their home countries and come and return without having to face long days, long weeks, and in some parts of China also months of quarantine. With the current situation being faced with lockdowns, uncertainty, children go back to homeschooling, and at the same time the rest of the world opening, there's definitely will draw talent away.
On Monday, authorities allowed those living in low-risk areas to move around within their district, but to date, there is confusion as some residents are barred from doing so. Authorities saying that even those in low-risk areas shouldn't leave their compounds unless necessary. And for most in the city, freedom still appears far off. Lo Min Min, CNA, Shanghai.